Sometimes we speak about free will as if there were absolutely no limits to our freedom. That doesn't make a bit of sense. There are all kinds of limits that we need to recognize. Limits that stretch from between a severely mentally hurt child to environmental straitjackets. But though there are limits, we're all sure that we can resist internal promptings and external stimuli. For some it would be more difficult than others, but we all sense, believe and act and live as though we have free will. But there are limits. There's nonsense mouthed on the other end of that spectrum when people tell us there's no such thing as free will. Another absolute. In various ways, people like B.F. Skinner and E.O. Wilson, Stephen Weinberg, Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, Daniel Dennett, and other, I think, silly people. They assure us that we're nothing but a bag of responses to genetic and or environmental shaping. As one man put it to a friend of mine, you can't get away from the fact that your whole being, thought, and behavior is the product of chemicals and elements, hormones, and gland secretions. You might hear our little dog in the background here. Oh, maybe you can live with it. Anyway, this fella was telling my friend, this doctor, as a matter of fact, at one of the Mayo clinics, was telling him, you can't get away from the fact that your whole being, thought, and behavior is the product of chemicals and elements, hormones and gland secretions. There is no you who makes decisions. You are just a conglomeration of responses. Now, so spoke a bag of chemicals. The speaker, what he was saying about my friend, he believed about himself. So here's this bag of chemicals speaking as it tried to persuade another sack of irresistible hormones and amino acids to believe something it didn't believe. The first bag of active chemicals seemed to think that there's something called truth, that the second bag, which is what the first bag thought he was talking to, the first bag thought there was something called truth that the second bag wasn't seeing and needed to confess. Why the first bag should even want to bother to persuade, if we can use that term, the second bag, it's a mystery. Persuasion has with it, well, never mind all of that. Why the first bag should even want to bother to persuade, if we can use that word, the second bag, it's a mystery. The second bag, my friend, in this discussion that they were having, the second bag, if what the first bag claimed was indeed true, had no freedom to believe other than it believed. I mean, its thinking, its thoughts and all of that were the result not of choice, but of how the chemicals were acting. So why would the first bag make the effort to persuade the other bag? In any case, and in any case, why bother? What does it matter what a bag of chemicals thinks? There's something that strikes us as out of whack when we hear one machine trying to persuade another machine that it matters what machines believe. And besides, if it's true, if we can use that word, we'll never know it, because questions like, is it true, have no meaning when everything is nothing other than it is. There isn't any truth. Things just are what they are, don't you see? Nobody can live believing such stuff. We don't hold a car tire responsible for going flat when it's punctured by a nail. It can't help it. It has no choice. We may be irritated because the tire's flat, but we don't blame the flat tire or the nail. The same would be true of people, unless they have some kind of control and can transcend many of their limiting factors. Of course, by the same token, we don't lock up our car and then make a speech to it. Thank you for being a good car today and taking me where I needed to go. So not only does the no free will school undermine responsibility, it destroys the groundwork for praise. Why praise a bag of chemicals for doing what it can't avoid doing? It can neither be praised nor blamed. Try living like that, huh? Try living like that. In truth, that doctrine is a killer of life. There is no life believing that. But if some poor soul who doesn't believe in free will at all happens to be hearing this, you can rest assured they'll get all upset with me, or at least will want to protest and argue the case and try to persuade me otherwise, if they thought it was worth the trouble, you understand. But the very fact that they would want to expose my nonsense would make it clear they believe that I'm not just a bag of chemicals, and it would prove that they don't think they are simply a bag of chemicals. Why bother if we're all just bags of chemicals?